Welcome to the Toronto Children's Services AQI Refresher module on programming. This module focuses on quality and pedagogy to support the early learning and childcare sector. It will also review the Assessment for Quality Improvement, also known as the AQI, which helps ensure quality in childcare programs. During this webinar, we will begin with understanding why observations are important and review some strategies to help you. We will also look at the connection between meaningful observations and purposeful programming. It is important to understand the purpose of the AQI as well as the intent behind them. First, let's take a look at pedagogical practices. Pedagogy is the process of understanding how learning happens and how our philosophies and practices support that understanding of learning. This wheel represents key elements that are involved in pedagogical processes, as well as how we can help children learn. Children's growing interests and their questions support child-centered, play-based learning. Pedagogical processes that help children learn are developed through observing, documenting, planning, assessing, and adapting programming. When we look at the pedagogical process, we can ask ourselves, how often do I observe and listen to children? How often do I document observations? How do I plan and implement play-based learning experiences? How often do I review how experiences went in order to adapt my program? How does learning happen? Ontario's Pedagogy for the Early Years tells us that our role as reflective educators helps us learn and understand children as unique individuals through listening, observing, documenting, and discussing our findings on how children make meaning through their experiences. By ensuring that we are equally involved in both interactions and observations can help us have a greater understanding of what opportunities can support the child in their learning. Let's take a look at observations. We know the value of writing observations and that they give us a better understanding of where the child is developmentally. They can also help us set goals for individual milestones and allow us to see a child's progress. Children are best understood by their families, so it is important to consider the many different cultures and experiences of the families you serve. Working closely with children, families, and colleagues has a positive effect on our programs. These relationships support a child's sense of well-being, belonging, and security. Sharing observations with colleagues and families supports a strong understanding of pedagogy. Sometimes being an objective observer can present challenges. An objective observation uses facts without the influence of personal feelings or prejudices. In contrast, a subjective observation is influenced by personal opinions or feelings. Consider how subjective observations may prevent us from fully knowing the children in our care. The next slide will share some strategies on how to complete observations in an objective way. Do not make broad generalizations. Focus on the child's activity and not your initial judgment. Be specific. Describe what the child is doing and record child-specific details. Determine the beginning and the end of the observation and capture the learning or skill that is taking place. It is important to be aware of the bias you may bring to your observation. Consider how your personal history, culture, life experiences, and values may influence your observations. The purpose of documenting observations in the Assessment for Quality Improvement, the AQI, is to help educators with planning and encouraging various developmentally appropriate learning experiences and helping to grow the children's knowledge and skills. With regular observations, continuous learning opportunities are adaptable. In addition, they emphasize choice, leadership, and autonomy and promote the interests of all children. By looking at current documentation, the AQI finds evidence that observations of children are used to develop learning experiences. Examples of this can include records of observations, photo documentation, and learning stories. For infant, toddler, and preschool programs, there is at least one documented observation per child per week. For before and after school programs, there are at least 2 documented observations per child per month. We will now take a look at how we link observations to programming and how we can show evidence that observations are being used to support programming. It is important to understand why you choose to document an experience. Key questions to consider include: why do I want to document this? Is this meaningful? How will I use this observation to offer experiences to children that extend their learning? Is there something else I need to document? Observations that connect to the program plan are evidence that meaningful documentation has been used to support the planning of learning experiences. Throughout the day, the children are engaged in a variety of learning experiences, and the program plan lets parents, educators, students, and visitors know what they can expect the children will be learning. Children are offered continuous learning opportunities and are given opportunities to grow and develop through an inclusive and responsive program. It takes time to plan and implement with others. Are educators receiving time to plan their programming in an intentional manner? How is this done? Having scheduled time away from the children provides educators with the opportunities to include observed cues, interests, and developmental goals into the program plan. As a pedagogical leader, the supervisor reviews the weekly program plans before they are posted. For programs that follow an emergent curriculum, the supervisor may review the program plan at the end of the week after all of the emergent learning experiences have been documented. This is a valuable opportunity for the supervisors to provide guidance, support, and offer suggestions to educators. The program plan is unique to each individual center, agency, or program that reflects their curriculum model and philosophy. It includes a plan for both indoor and outdoor experiences and reflects communities, cultures, varying abilities, and family structures. It is developed to meet the needs of the children enrolled in each particular program. The program plan describes the specific learning experiences planned and/or documented for children in each curriculum area. It is different from a schedule in that it includes details of each learning experience in different learning areas. Learning areas include sensory, art, cognitive, language and literacy, science and nature, blocks and construction, music and movement, and dramatic or pretend play. An important part of creating a programmed experience is to describe what the learning experience aims to do for the children and what are the skills, goals, or desired outcomes that will be achieved. Learning opportunities can include a direct reference to the number and root skill within the Early Learning for Every Child Today continuum of development, also known as the ELECT, which describes the learning opportunities. For example, this may be documented as cardboard boxes, paint and glue. 4.3 representation. In this example, 4.3 representation describes the learning opportunity. Please note, if only referencing the number on the continuum of development For example, 4.3, the elect document must be posted beside the program plan so it can be used as a reference. Another example of a description of a learning opportunity is to describe the learning experience and include the skill children will work towards mastering. Examples of skills could include sink and float, problem solving, cooperation, or self-regulation. Curriculum learning outcomes can also be documented as learning opportunities. For example, document key developmental indicators from High Scope, Play to Learn, or Montessori alongside the planned experience. Remember, continuous learning opportunities are flexible, encourage choice, and reflect the interests of the children. The AQI's minimum expectation for infant, toddler, and preschool programs is that the descriptions of learning opportunities or skills are reflected in each learning area on the program plan, and that at least one experience within that learning area relates to the skills identified. For before and after school programs, at least one learning opportunity, skill, or goal must be identified daily. When we look at the different age groups, we see different expectations. Here are the learning areas that would be reflected on the program plan to meet minimum expectations for infants. 1. Language and literacy experience is offered daily. 1. Sensory experience is offered daily. 1. Art experience is offered daily. 1. Cognitive experience is offered daily. 1. Physical play experience is offered daily. At least one block and construction experience is offered weekly. At least one music and movement experience is offered weekly. To exceed expectations, the following needs to be reflected. 2 sensory experiences are offered daily, and at least one of the sensory experiences represents different senses, for example, sight and smell, or sound and taste. 2 art experiences are offered daily. 2 music and movement experiences are offered weekly, and there is evidence on the program plan that props are used with at least one of the music and movement experiences. One of the cognitive experiences includes cause and effect as a learning opportunity, for example, a pop-up toy experience. Within the pretend play learning area, there is a pretend play focus identified on the program plan. The children are offered a choice of 2 physical play experiences in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. Let's take a look at the learning areas that would be reflected on the program plan to meet minimum expectations for toddlers. 1. Language and literacy experience is offered daily. 1. Sensory experience is offered daily. 1. Art experience is offered daily. 1. Cognitive experience is offered daily. 2. Physical play experiences are offered daily, at least one in the morning and one in the afternoon. At least one block and construction experience is offered weekly. At least one music and movement experience is offered weekly. At least one science and nature experience is offered weekly. There is a documented pretend play focus on the program plan, which reflects the materials in the dramatic learning area or space. Please note that to meet the programming expectations, play materials for children who do not nap or who wake early are also documented on the program plan. To exceed expectations, the following needs to be reflected. 2 sensory experiences are offered daily, and at least one of the sensory experiences reflects different senses, for example, sight and smell, or sound and taste. One science and nature experience is offered daily. 2 art experiences are offered daily using at least 3 different art mediums. For example, paint and sponges, glue and collage material, paper and crayons. 2 music movement experiences are offered weekly, and there is evidence on the program plan that props are used with at least one of the music and movement experiences. One of the cognitive experiences includes cause and effect as a learning opportunity, for example, magnets or pop-up experiences. One of the cognitive experiences enhances knowledge of math concepts, for example, sorting and counting games. The children are offered a choice of 2 physical play experiences in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. Now let's take a look at the learning areas that would be included on the program plan to meet minimum expectations for the preschool age group. 1 language and literacy experience is offered daily. 1 sensory experience is offered daily. 1 art experience is offered daily. 1 cognitive experience is offered daily. 2 physical play experiences are offered daily, at least 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. At least 1 block and construction experience is offered weekly. At least 1 music and movement experience is offered weekly. At least 1 science and nature experience is offered weekly. There is a documented pretend play focus on the program plan, which reflects the materials in the dramatic learning area or space. Please note that to meet the programming expectations, play materials for children who do not nap or who wake early are also documented on the program plan. If your program uses electronic media, it is important to be aware of the related guidelines for preschool-age children. Information such as the name and length of TV show or movie must be documented on the program plan. To exceed expectations, the following needs to be reflected. 2 sensory experiences are offered daily. 2 art experiences are offered daily using at least 3 different art mediums. For example, paint and sponges, glue and collage materials, paper and crayons. 2 language and literacy experiences are offered daily. 2 music and movement experiences are offered weekly, and there is evidence on the program plan that props are used with at least 1 of the music and movement experiences. 1 science and nature experience is offered daily. 1 of the cognitive experiences includes cause and effect as a learning opportunity, for example, magnet experiences. 1 of the cognitive experience enhances knowledge of math concepts, for example, sorting and counting games. At least 2 block and construction experiences are offered weekly. The children are offered a choice of 2 physical play experiences in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. Lastly, let's look at the before and after school programming to meet minimum expectations. 3 different types of learning areas are planned and/or documented throughout the week. For example, art, science, and language experiences may be some of the learning areas planned for in 1 week. For instructional days, when children are in the program after their school day, there are 3 or more learning experiences planned or documented daily. For non-instructional days, when children are in the program for the whole day, there are 5 or more learning experiences planned or documented daily. Additional to the previously mentioned learning experiences, at least one physical play experience is offered daily. There should be evidence that children are included in the programming process on a weekly basis, which demonstrates that children can participate in planning their upcoming learning experiences. Some examples of how this can be achieved may include weekly group meetings with the children, identifying children's ideas directly on the program plan, and using suggestion boxes or whiteboards that are accessible to the children within the program space. If your program uses electronic media, the AQI guidelines ask that you document this information on the program plan, including the title and length of time of the movie or TV show. To exceed AQI before and after school programming expectations, the children are offered a choice of 2 or more planned and/or documented physical play learning experiences daily, either inside or outside. Healthy eating learning experiences are planned and/or documented monthly. For example, through cooking activities, encouraging children to create their own recipe books, or by using the Canada Food Guide to plan meals with the children. In order to create the best possible program as educators, it is important to listen, observe, and discuss with others in order to understand children as unique individuals. Regular observations and discussions among caregivers and families provides a deeper understanding of each child and allows you to capture developmental progress, all of which support quality program. Ask yourself these questions to ensure all elements of quality programming are incorporated into your programs. Are the observations meaningful, and do they support the planned learning experiences? Are developmentally appropriate experiences planned in all of the learning areas? Do the planned learning experiences represent the community's cultures, varying abilities, and family structures? Do the learning experiences meet the needs of the children enrolled in each particular program? Are the descriptions of learning opportunities included on the program plan, and are they connected to the identified goals or outcomes of the learning experiences? Remember, as children engage in learning, the environment and materials they use will change and evolve, so it's important to continue to think about the learning that is taking place. Evaluate how learning experiences went. What wasn't successful and what was? Think about how you can build on and extend the experience. What can I change? And what could I do differently? Can you add new ideas or new approaches? How can you adapt the learning experience for individual children or support the children's learning? Programming will continually evolve, which means that continuous learning opportunities are adaptable, promote choice, and represent the developmental levels and interests of each individual child. Here are some resources to further support you and your team in thoughtful analysis and continuous learning as you continue your pedagogical journey. Please visit the description section of this video for links to all of the listed resources on this page. Toronto Children's Services, in partnership with community organizations, plans and delivers a range of early learning and childcare capacity building opportunities. To learn more and register for professional learning opportunities, including upcoming age-specific community of practice sessions, please visit the Children's Services page on Eventbrite by using the QR code on the screen. To be notified of upcoming professional learning opportunities, please click Follow on the Eventbrite page. This concludes the AQI Refresher module on programming. We hope that after reviewing this module, you have a better understanding of this information, which is essential to ensuring high-quality early learning programs. Please continue to regularly check our website for more webinars. Thank you.